All right, which ones are we going to pick out some specific ones?
I don't care.
You look at. Survey. Man, we sent this survey out like a year ago. We sent this survey out almost a year ago. It was like it was the end of February. Not really a year, but 9 months or so. 7 months.
We've done this one that can something be too thin, right?
Yes.
But Emily Rousseau ceramic.
Did that get Emily Russ or something
It's at
like
the
that?
bottom.
Okay. Yeah.
Should I delete it?
No. Look at the list. This is the list of every single question based on the episode number.
Oh, I see. Oh, answered questions. Okay. Oh, yeah. I always just delete them. Oops.
No, we normally move them down. I normally move them down.
I love this one. Another one. I live in Winnipeg, also known as Winterpeg, where it gets as cold as -40 degrees during the winter. You wondering Celsius or Fahrenheit? -40 C is the same as -40 F. Fucking cold as balls.
Oh my god. That's great.
I love that. Fucking cold as balls.
Mm-hmm.
I'm cool if we just pick a few and then just shoot the shit.
Okay, are we going to split it up into 2 or are we going to do 1?
Let's do 2 1 hours.
Okay. All right, I'm looking for something from the survey that'd be good. Let me answer that one.
I think that I should be able to hang out with you guys on Wednesday.
Okay. I mean, she's going to leave on Wednesday, but
I thought she was going to be here on Wednesday night.
Oh, sorry, hold on. That's right. She gets in Wednesday at like 2 or 3. And then I'll be there around the same time. She wants me to like pick her up from the airport. And then we'll be around, and then she leaves Thursday morning. And I'll leave midday Thursday or whatever.
Okay.
Or at checkout, I guess. Because I have Thursday off, so.
I went to a really good Italian place. Do you guys want to try a nice Italian place?
Is it like Italian pasta stuff, or is it like pizza stuff, or is it
pasta, but it's kind of expensive.
Depends on what it is.
Called Eozo's. I just went there last night. It's really good.
Oh, okay. We'll have to look it up. We do want to go to the tiki bar that's there.
Okay.
I think it's the Inferno Room. Since we haven't been to that yet. Ooh, I like this part. Okay.
What?
Okay. I'll say them on the podcast from the survey.
Okay.
And then just for fun, if you could say anything anonymously, what would it be?
Ooh.
Mm,
Ooh. Should we do a review?
sure.
We don't have very many left.
We have a lot left.
No, there's not that many.
I mean, there's like 10 probably, right?
Yeah, I guess.
There's like 15 on here.
It's like 15.
We would have to read like 2 every episode to get through these. It doesn't matter where you pick it from.
We just got one. Real Talk is an absolutely wonderful podcast. I feel like that I'm kicking in the studio talking with friends about how to really make it as a potter / artist.
I did see that one. That was like on Halloween or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep, I remember seeing that one.
I love how everybody talks back to the podcast.
Yeah, that's great. All right. All right, so you have a review picked out. I have something from the survey. And then did you move up any specific listener questions that we want to kind of
Did
answer?
I pick a review out?
Sounded like you did. Well, you saw the brand new one, but I don't know if you wanted to read that
pick
one.
one of the older ones.
Okay. I mean, I think this one about the cone 6 to 10 clay would be worth mentioning.
Okay.
That one. I'm going to put it at the very top. That's a good art show related question. Okay. Those two can be paired. I mean, I think this one would be good too. This one's process related. Okay, so it looks like we got, if you want to look at the top, you can see the couple. I mean, there's one that's a lengthier question that it's a bunch of similar ones related to each other. But first one's about process and vitrification. The other one's about process and kiln loading. And then there's a couple that are paired that could be a separate 1 hour. About art show stuff. I don't know if there's another one that we can group with the art show one. Was there a question on the one that said about the cold stuff?
What?
Anyways, right now. Oh,
Yeah,
so
it was a question
the
after.
cold comment is okay. Okay. All right. So maybe that could be. I don't know. We'll see if we can answer those. I don't know how long those are going to go, but.
Okay.
Alrighty. Let's move that over there. All right. When do you want to start? At the minute mark?
Sure.
All right. Oh, that way.
Oh, I think I was late. Because I clicked it, but I didn't click the record.
Hey, there's worse things you could be late at, so.
Oh, so many. God, I could think of a few.
We're live.
We're live. Hi.
Hi, Becca. I needed my hydration before we get started there.
Hydration station.
You know I'm heavily hydrated every episode, so.
Yeah, I do.
Hi, it's been a while. You've been quite busy.
Dude, I'm fucking working my ass off.
What have you been busy with, Becca?
What have I been busy with? So today was good. But no. So I told a friend that I would help her out with a show. I think I've mentioned that. And it's like a hobby Christmas show. And so it's like, ironically, this I was thinking about this today. Ironically, first show I ever did Christmas wise was a holiday gift show in Washington, in Tacoma, and it was fucking huge. And I think it's the same show, honestly, or very similar. And
I mean, how much different are those shows really?
really, they're very much the same. And um uh
Can you
so
explain what the show like? What do you mean like a? I don't remember what you characterize it as. I don't know if you said a hobby show or like
it's
a.
like a hobby holiday Christmas show, so there's gonna be a ton of like ornaments and Christmas shit, and they'll probably have fake snow and
Decor and like wooden built things that are painted and like
yes, like Santa Claus.
home decorations and stuff like that.
Yeah. And so I told her I would help her out because she's a fine artist and this is not the show for her for sure. And so it's a huge, very expensive show. I would not recommend doing it. And she tried to get out of it because she thought it was a different show and she tried to get out of it. So it's about $1,200 for a booth. It's 5 days. And
5 days. Holy crap.
yeah, so I'm splitting it with her, so it's 600 and so it's 600 and I've been making shitty cups and pinch pots, and I think that what I'm gonna go with is $18 for the shitty cups or 2 for 30, and then $10 for the pinch pots because really they do take way more work than the shitty cups, honestly. $10 for the pinch pots or 3 for 25. So yes, I'm doing that. And
Nice.
I think I probably have maybe like 150 cups right now. I've got 80 on on deck trying to get bisque and all these things. So I'm still working through this whole thing. And yeah.
Would you
fuck.
ever? I know we were talking with Amy Brumming about this recently, but would you ever like change prices after a couple days if like you had 150 and you sold like half of them after a couple days or something?
No.
Like, would you ever increase the price or like remove your 3, 4, whatever discount?
No, I just sell the shit out of them.
Do
For
they have
me,
any specs about like you have to be there every day and stuff like that, and
you do have
like
to be there
make
every
sure
day.
you have product and stuff like that?
Yeah, and also they had a thing where it was like you can't do a last day crazy sale situation, like blowout sale or anything like that. Um, but yeah, it should be interesting. We're setting up tomorrow morning, and
Nice.
I
Because it's in
gotta,
like a convention center, right? Or expo
yeah,
center or
it's
something
at
like
the
that,
fair.
fairgrounds.
So
Okay. Is it
yeah,
indoor at least, so it's like climate
yeah,
controlled
yeah,
and
it's
it's
indoors and
comfortable?
it's rod and curtains, so it's like they like set up. Um,
Meh.
yeah, fuck, and
I don't mind the ones that are like curtains behind you to like separate the booths behind you, and then they've got like low
yeah, that's what.
dividers for the. Okay, it's not like 10
Yeah, I
foot,
don't think
or
so.
it's
I
not
think it's
like
5.
7 foot curtains.
Yeah, no.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, and then
Wow. Do people have to pay admission to come to that? I'm guessing, right?
yeah, it's like $13 for adults, and I
Oh my
think kids
gosh.
under a certain age are free. Seniors are like 11 because that's so much cheaper.
Mhm.
And yeah, it's just a lot. And people pay that shit to get in. Like they don't care.
Oh
Um
my God, I can't believe I've never heard of a show like that that's 5 days. That's bananas to me.
oh, you know what's even more bananas is that it's fucking 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. the first 2 days, 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. the second 2 days, and 10 a.m. to 5 p.m.
And this thing starts on a today's Monday. It starts on Wednesday,
Starts
right?
on Wednesday and it goes till Sunday.
Wednesday to Sunday.
Like
10 to
fuck.
8 on Wednesday and Thursday.
Yeah.
Who the fuck is coming out to the convention center at 10 a.m. on a Wednesday or
I'll
Thursday?
tell you who. Crazy
The
white women
seniors?
who love Christmas. That's who.
Oh my gosh. I mean, that's just
I
so,
had like a
that's
total of
exhausting. Good
I had
thing
a
you get to
total of
split it
3
with
weeks.
your
3
booth
weeks
mate.
to prepare. Because we were just
Yeah,
like
that's
chatting in the studio, and I was like, "Oh, I can split the booth with you." And then I wasn't like really thinking about it. And I was like, "Oh shit!" And I had to get clay, and it was a lot. So yeah, how are
Do you have
you?
any fancy cups? Are you gonna take any fancy cups?
I don't think so. I don't have any done, and I want to do an update on the 20th. So
Okay. I'm good. My brother came and visited this weekend with his fiance, and we moved some things in the studio, um,
I
making
forgot
some
they're
house
engaged. How
improvements.
exciting!
Yeah. Um, and we'll see what else. Yeah, we're just kind of getting stuff out of the old house. We got an
Mhm.
offer on the old house. That's been kind of a up and down, but got an offer working through the inspection report and like things we need to fix. Um, and then yeah, just those kind of things. We're trying to get like shelving units out, and the last kiln is out, so
Mhm.
my both kilns are out. The vent is out. All of my shelf like kiln furniture's out. There's some bisqueware and some finishedware still there, like on one
Yeah.
shelving unit that I need to get, but nothing essential. And
When do you
then
think
we
it'll
still got like
close?
big shelving units. Probably early December, I think,
Okay.
early to mid December. So it really should just be getting the major pieces of furniture out.
Yeah.
Um, we've got, if you look at the whole house, we've probably got 95% of the stuff out of the house. So it should
Yeah.
be minimal. It's those little things that add up, like emptying garage kind of things. And so, so that's been kind of the main stuff. I have been trying to organize my new studio a little bit, um, figuring out the table situation and like where I want stuff organized. And I just moved my table against the wall, but I
Mhm.
still have like an open space in the middle with the table in the middle. So we'll kind of see. I'm trying to like keep the clutter out of the studio as much as I can
Yeah.
because all the clutter's behind the studio in the
God,
unfinished
you have
area.
so much shit.
Did you
Like,
see my stories yesterday?
yes, there's so much.
It's so piled up. Well, I mean, some of it is like if I didn't have the shelving units, then I can't like I boxed up a bunch of bisqueware. So there's bisqueware that's
Yeah.
normally on shelving units and it's in boxes. So like I probably have 4 or 5 boxes of bisqueware
Yeah,
that
for
needs to go on
sure.
shelves. And then I'm trying to figure out like, do I only want to put bisqueware inside that back area on shelves? Because I can probably glaze back there right next to the kilns and have shelving that has glazeware on it. So I'm trying to figure out how I want to organize it. I don't want to like start filling up shelves and be like, oh, I wish I put this shelf over here, and then I got to take everything off of it and move the whole shelf and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So we'll see. That's what I'm trying to figure out now. But yeah, boxes everywhere. Um, but I got a lot of wet clay in progress, which is good. I got some shows coming up here in a couple weeks, and then got a few more that I've filled out for the rest of the year, like some smaller ones and then some other ones. So
Yeah.
should be good. I think I'm pretty set for the rest of the year. I don't know how the online stuff's gonna do. I don't know that I'm still figuring out, like, I don't know how to photograph stuff, like what's a good spot to photograph, and like that's
Yeah.
still kind of a question mark in my mind of what I need to do. Um, so I do kind of want to put some stuff online at some point with the holidays coming up, but uh
Mm-hmm.
yeah. But we're working at it little by little. So all right, onward.
Onward and upward. Onward
I
and
am ready
upward.
to I'm ready to get out of this old house though. It's like just the
Yeah.
little things that loom and you got to go back and forth, and be nice to just have that off the plate. So, all right, what are we doing first? Let me read something. So we did this survey back for newer listeners. They probably didn't know this, but we did a listener survey back in February, March of 2021. And we got some feedback from you all. We might send out another one here in a few months. I don't know, maybe 2022 we'll send one out. But we had some questions, and then the last question on here was if you could have us say anything anonymously on the podcast, what would it be? So I wanted to read one of these, maybe a couple of these. It said, I remember a few episodes ago you guys were talking about whether potters were considered craftsmen, craftsperson, or artists, and what the difference was and what you considered yourselves to be. I thought it was interesting because in France, potters are considered artisan d'art. It could be translated to something like craftsman of art or artist craftsman. I think that seems to be a good title for a potter. It covers pretty much everything. Fun little tidbit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of both, right? And then another one said, haha, I saw a meme the other day that made me laugh and could be fun. If you had to rob a place but only take things that would slightly inconvenience the owner, what would you take? The meme said the plate and the microwave as their answer to give you an idea.
If you had to inconveniently rob a place, what would you take? Oh my god. I think that I would take, if they had a water filter, I think that I would take
A water filter, like a Brita pitcher in their
yeah.
fridge.
And like take their butter. Like take
Their butter. Like, would you just take the stick of butter and then the case that it's in, you would leave that so it's just like no butter in there? You would
yeah,
take the whole.
or I don't know. I mean, like I leave my butter in the fridge, but I would just take all of the butter and all the milk, all the butter and milk.
You know something I use on a daily basis that would totally inconvenience? If you just took like the water holder of the Keurig machine, if you just took the water container, because it's basically useless if you don't have the water container, because it's such a specific size. But I mean, I'm sure you could just buy another one, but that would be pretty inconvenient.
Yeah.
All right. So thanks for the survey feedback.
Yeah.
What do you got on your side?
Oh, I have a. Sorry, I'm a little spacey today. I have a review. Okay, it's. Sorry. I'm so tired and I haven't eaten anything. And I also had a little bit of alcohol. So from Shelby Chowning, It says classic and quality content, lots of info on pottery without making you feel like it's being shoved in your face. I'm still young in knowledge of ceramics, and it's so great to be able to listen to two people who, one, love it so much, debatable, and two, know a lot about it. To quote the $1 Million Ice Cream Taster, John Harrison, that's a 10.
Who the hell is that?
I don't know. That was on May 21st.
The $1 Million Ice Cream Taster?
Yeah. Did you look it
up? What was his name? Tom Harrison?
John Harrison.
John Harrison.
I think that was it. I just deleted it, so.
Of course you did.
Well, you know.
I don't know if it was John Harrison. I see a clockmaker named John Harrison.
Well, did you look up the $1 Million Ice Cream Taster?
No.
Weird question. Do you know how fast you type?
Not very. Oh my gosh, I just did $1 Million Ice Cream Tater.
Okay, $1 Million Ice Cream. It is John Harrison.
John Harrison. I guess he's not popular enough to show up for just typing his name in. He's not cooler than this clockmaker named John Harrison.
He's the official taste tester of dryers.
Nice.
He's got $1 Million taste buds. Wow.
Thing is, with those kind of jobs, like, you have to spit it out. Like, they don't really eat much of this stuff, I don't think.
No, and can you imagine how sick?
It's like wine tasting.
My friend Teresa had used to work for Haagen-Dazs, who's owned by Nestle, and I believe. And she used to be one of the lab people, and they used to have to test things. And it was so funny. Her husband's like a fucking twig, like you. And he was like, he could never gain weight. And when she got that job, he's like, I gained 15 pounds.
So she would bring it home and like have samples and test batches and stuff.
Cream. Yeah, now she just works for a water company. So now we get bottled water for free, which is lame. But, you know.
There's this student of mine that in the last couple of years, she actually listens to the podcast. So shout out. Carla. She works at like a place that does food science of like chemistry of flavors of food and stuff. I think she works in like the like chemistry side of it.
Yeah. That's what Teresa
Pretty cool,
does.
right?
Or did. Yeah. That's so cool. Yeah, it's a cool job. She's like, I'd always used to tell people, you know that job on the Food Network that you're like, damn, I want that job. My friend has that.
Does she love it as much as you think she would love it?
No.
No.
Okay, so today we're just gonna do listener questions because we're tired and
You're tired. I'm good.
I know I'm exhausted. We're gonna do 2 episodes tonight, so they're gonna be like 1-hour episodes. So be prepared, because we need some backup episodes.
Be prepared.
Be prepared. It's from Lion King, right? Oh, no. It's Aladdin.
Is it?
Yeah. For King Ali, be prepared for King Ali.
Yes. You know, did you see that Ashley called out when we were doing the thing a couple episodes ago? It was from Mulan.
How was it?
Yeah, it was something we were singing or saying. Yeah, I don't remember what it was, but
Can I tell you a secret that's not really a secret, but also not something that I normally say out loud, is that Mulan was my least favorite.
Let me tell you a secret that's not really a secret that I don't really care that anybody knows. I've never seen Mulan. Are you surprised? Probably not.
No. Maybe I should, are you guys staying in a hotel when you come out here?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe we should watch Mulan Wednesday night.
I mean, why?
Why not?
I mean, there's got to be other stuff that's better to watch than Mulan.
Was the dragon Eddie Murphy? I think it was.
I don't
Fuck
know.
yeah.
You know what I saw? Not semi recently, but I saw it with like the nephews and stuff. Watching like Moana. That's pretty good. You know what I'm talking about?
Moana, yeah, my dad loves that movie.
It's good. I mean, they were like in that like cycle, of, like watching on repeat, but like it was good. I mean, I'm not gonna intentionally watch like either newer Disney movies or like older Disney movies that I never saw. Like I'm only gonna watch it if I remember it, and like I don't know.
I really like watching Cinderella because me and Cinderella have the same range musically, and so I can sing all the songs.
Oh, nice.
Mhm. It's a good one. I was singing today, and Krista came in. I don't remember what I was singing. It was a very It was a very songy song, and she comes out and she goes, "Krista's the glass artist that is in our studio that will always be
Right.
with us." Um, and she goes, "You're a fucking Disney princess." And I
Is
was
there
like,
a is
"What?"
there a
I was,
is there a specific artist that played Cinderella? Like I
uh,
remember there's a bunch of popular name people that played these Disney characters, but were there is that the same with like Cinderella and Sleeping Beauty and stuff like that?
no, I don't know. I don't know. No, back in the day, they used to just get good fucking singers. You know,
Okay.
my favorite song from Cinderella is the shortest song, which is so sad, which is the Sing Sweet Nightingale when she's like washing the floors and she's like, Sing Sweet Nightingale, high above us. That one. That one's my favorite because it
I
starts
don't
out
know
with
that song.
the pear shaped tall. Like it starts out with the fucking terrible sisters. And
All
then
right,
it
now we're gonna get requests for Becca to sing songs on here. Send us your requests, people.
yes.
Just for Becca though, just for Becca.
Yeah. Um, but also for Ryan, we can do a duet. We can
I
do
don't know about
a
that.
whole new world. I can show you the world.
Shining, shimmering, splendid.
You can be the female one and I'll be the male one. Tell me, princess, now when did you last let your heart decide?
Oh yeah, we're gonna get copyright violations for those tunes because we're so accurate.
Uh, uh,
That's
okay.
funny.
Anyway, moving on. Um, um, we should do the questions. Whether you want to do a listener
Yeah,
question?
well, let's do the first one here. It says, "Hi Becca and Ryan. Hi. I found your
Hi.
podcast a few months ago and I'm absolutely loving it. I do have a question regarding vitrification. This may have been answered before, but I couldn't remember. My community studio uses standard 181 stoneware, which is labeled as cone 6 to 10 firing body. Our kilns glaze fire to cone 6. Through research this topic on my own, I've come across some potters who say that clay isn't vitrified and not food safe until it's fired to its maximum temperature. If that is true, it seems weird that commercial clay manufacturers don't make that distinction in the descriptions of the clays. Characteristics, though, I found a lot of mixed and confusing information about the subject online, so I wanted to get your take on it. Thanks, guys. Willow and Vessel.
Willow and Vessel.
One
Well,
reference I would say is, for one, go to the episode 95 with Link Henderson because we actually asked her this question. It was very detailed, and she is way smarter about this stuff than we are.
how
But
do you like pull these episodes out of your ass? So that like, how do you know these?
I mean, I was just well, for one, I was just putting stuff on like the YouTube channel and stuff. Um, and I was just saw that episode number, so I remembered it. But also, I happen to tell people like, "Hey, go look at this episode." And usually, I don't know that like and pull it out of my ass. I usually just go to the website and scroll through the list and say like, "Okay, this is the number. Go to that episode number."
That's a lot of work. It almost seems
But
like less work
normally
to
I
just answer
do.
the question.
Normally I do just kind of remember it. No, I'd
Okay,
rather like give them a, hey, if you want it, here's a 2 hour answer or whatever.
that's why people ask you the questions and not me. Um, okay, so we have an answer. What do you think, Ryan?
So what Link was talking about is usually these companies have like been around a while, and the more popular temperature that it was like fired to back in the day was like cone 10 a lot. And then I think they were kind of adjusting them to work at cone 6, and they label them as like those ranges. But it's kind of on the user to like understand what that means and like go into understanding what absorption rates are and vitrification and knowing what fits with your glazes the best. But um I think it's just because they would have to completely have a separate line of work that's like, okay, this clay is only to cone 5 to 7 and this clay is only to cone 9 and 10. And it's like the supply chain issues and like logistics of getting that to work and like selling it and educating people is way more work than just selling it and saying like, hey, it's 6 to 10 and it's on you to like figure what that means. I actually was using cone or standard 182 back in the day before I switched to Kentucky Mudworks Iceman because of the same issues. Like it was sold to 6 to 10. I didn't know any better. I think I was using that clay somewhere and I was using it for a long time. And then I understood about vitrification, and I had pots like leaking on tables when they had glaze fit issues. And like, yeah, I mean, I think it's honestly a way to like adjust their higher temperature body to be sellable at cone 6 and still like sell it. I mean, I don't know what percentage of people are buying these clays, if it's mostly hobby people that aren't selling their stuff, or if it's schools, or I I mean, I do think it's good for like schools and teaching places because they could fire to cone 6 and cone 10. Like it probably gives them some flexibility, but also it's like, you know, vitrification is obviously a big topic here. What do you think? Why do you think they do it?
I don't know why they do it, but what I will say, I'm not going to go into why they do it, but what I will say is that you'll never know the answer. Hi, Charles. You'll never know the answer until you do the test. So there are some clays that are 6 to 10 that vitrify at cone 5. Like, there's a lot of those are porcelains. So like my studio mates now have a cone 6 to 10 clay, and it's a porcelain and it vitrifies at cone 6. So but like porcelains typically vitrify a lot close, like lower, and they can get away with going from 6 or to 10. So you just have to do the tests. It's not to the maximum temperature. Sometimes it's right in the middle. Sometimes it's just like, hey, we know that this is good at 6, but it's also like doesn't bloat at 10, so it's fine. So that's what I would say. The biggest thing is that you just have to do the test for yourself. It doesn't, just because it says 6 to 10, you can't, and just because it says 5 to 7, it could vitrify at 4 or it could vitrify at 7. You don't know. So test.
I was wondering what you were considering because if you say the porcelain's a 6 to 10 and you say it's vitrified at cone 6, what does it mean when it goes to cone 10? Is it still considered vitrified, or does vitrified associate with an absorption percentage? Like it's considered vitrified when the absorption is lower than like 2.5%, and that's considered vitrified. Is that? I'm trying to look on Digital Fire to see if it has a.
Also, Digital Fire is a really good reference if you want to look up anything, and he's pretty much solid on all of his information. So yeah, I mean, like, it is like porcelains, they just get better as they go higher. Essentially, they get more secure, like solid, I suppose. But yeah, like a porcelain's a really tight fit. So when it's vitrified, you actually want porcelains to be vitrified at, like, I think it's between 1% and 2%, and then stonewares are a little hot. You can get away with a little higher, if I remember correctly. I'm not positive. It could be the opposite way around. I'm not sure. But yeah, so you just have to do the test and look up what the best percentages for porcelains versus stonewares versus earthenwares and shit like that. So
Yeah. Yeah, it looks like we'll put the Digital Fire link in here, but you can look it up. It talks about and vitrified is not, it differs based on the clay body too. Like a buff stoneware, it says might be 1.5% porous. Hard porcelain might be 0% porous, as in like absorption rate. Terracotta could be, it could be considered vitreous and it has 3 to 5% porosity. So
yeah,
it varies based on the clay body.
I have a red clay cup that's from a guy in Washington that he fires to cone 3 and it's vitrified. So, it could be anything.
Yeah.
So
yeah, look it up. These places do a lot more research on this stuff if you want to know the specifics. But yeah, generally those 6 to 10 clays that are labeled that way, I would say, they usually need to be fired to the top number. But you need to do the absorption test and for stonewares like mine, I don't want anything more than like 4.5% absorption.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that really what it should tell you is if it's 6 to 10, that's saying hey, test your clay. This could be between 6 and it could be at 10. If it's 5 to 7, you still need to test it, but it's a little safer bet, If
you're going to 6, you're
going
to have a more vitrified clay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Next one. Do you want to read this one because you liked it?
I do love this one.
Jody coming in with the good questions.
Jody. Love it. He says, I live in Winnipeg, also known as Winterpeg. This is very timely as well, where it gets as cold as negative 40 degrees during the winter. You wondering Celsius or Fahrenheit? Negative 40 C is the same as negative 40 F. Fucking cold as balls. Anyways, right now, all my glazing stuff is in our garage that's not insulated. I'm holding out as long as I can, but I was curious what would happen if my glazes froze. After it thawed, do you think there would be any issues or changes to it? I'm thinking no, because all the materials were once in the earth anyway, so what could possibly be more harsh than that? And that's Goodwill Ceramics, Jody. I have actually had my glazes freeze. Yay. Because I used to glaze out on my front porch. And really, I would just take them inside, let them thaw out, and stir them up again. Nothing changed. So that's my personal experience, but I don't know if anybody else has any different. Clay,
I wonder if it's different, because the materials separate and there's water on top. I wonder if it's does just the top section of water that's sitting freeze, and then the materials don't because they're a different thing, or what?
I don't know. I was gonna look up what actually is negative 40 degrees Celsius. Negative 40 Celsius.
What do you mean? What it is?
That's
what he just said. It's negative 40 in Fahrenheit. That's how cold it is. It's the same.
Oh, it literally is the same.
Yes.
How though? How?
I don't know how that works, but somehow it works. That's cold. Very cold.
Because 20 degrees Celsius is 68 degrees Fahrenheit.
Look it up. I don't know. Negative 40 Celsius in Fahrenheit.
I did. It's negative 40 degrees Fahrenheit is negative 40 degrees Celsius. That doesn't math out. That doesn't math out. Okay.
Somehow it works. It's cold either way. I don't know. Yeah, definitely thaw it out. I mean, you couldn't even mix it, right? It would be all slushy and shit. How would you mix that? And then how would you dunk your piece into it?
It would be really interesting to dunk your piece into slushy.
That would be kind of cool, actually. What if you put it on there and as it dried, it it made different effects or something, or maybe when you put it in the kiln and you fired it, it would speed thaw it, and that would be kind of cool. Like if you took chunks of glaze, like poured them into, like stirred it up and poured it into like an ice cube tray, and then like took them out and broke it up or something and like put it in a bowl. Like, I don't know. That'd be kind of cool.
So I've been on this calculator about Fahrenheit and Celsius. Negative 39 degrees Celsius is negative 38.2 degrees Fahrenheit. Negative 35 is negative 31 Fahrenheit. So it like negative 41 is negative 41.8 degrees Fahrenheit. So I wonder what negative 50 is. Oh, okay. So at 40 is where it like evens out and then it switches.
Okay.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know it did that. That's so weird.
Okay. There was a the other cold related one that Jody asked. Building off the cold issue, it's actually pretty cold out right now and my glaze feels cold. I'm wondering if temperature affects absorption at all.
I would imagine. I mean, like, mostly because it's not even the temperature as much as the well, yes.
I would say, yeah, it affects it. Like if you have you ever heard the thing of like if you were to glaze fire something and you wanted to like fill in little spots, that it's good to like warm it up some?
Yeah.
Like sit it on top of the kiln, and then when you like put glaze on the piece that's already fired,
like
it'll
a refire.
It'll absorb the. It's just really about drying the glaze quicker. So
I did that today. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what would happen the opposite way though. If it was really cold and you dipped it, have you dipped a really cold glaze?
Dude,
or maybe the pot's really cold. What if the pots are outside?
I used to glaze in 40-degree weather and it was fine.
Yeah. Okay.
It takes a little longer to dry.
Yeah. So maybe the time between like dipping multiple colors.
Yeah, the bisque is always going to have that same amount of absorption in it. It's just going to take longer to dry, I feel like.
Yeah. So I don't think the absorption is necessarily affected. It's more the time to drying. Okay. Cool. All right. There's another one that is a process related one. This one says, "Hi Becca and Ryan." This might be from the same person. No, it's not. Okay. I was filling up my kiln to make a bisque firing, and so many questions popped in my head. I wanted to ask you guys if you could share how you arrange your pots in the kiln.
I love this.
I only had a 10-minute lesson from a potter at the studio where I learned, but now I make more. I need to make better use of the space. Some questions for bisque firing. 1, can the pots touch each other on the sides? Can we put pots inside each other? Will they warp if I stack them or the lip has something on top? Is air circulation important? So those are all bisque fire related questions, but this will be good.
This is great. I love this question.
We've never talked about this. It's a part of the process that I really like a lot, actually, but you probably like, you've loaded quite a few kilns in your life, student work and your own work. So
just a few. Okay. I would like to preface this with it does matter what type of clay you're using and how thin your pots are. So we're going to start with that. So if you have porcelain or something that warps easily, like a high iron body, smooth stoneware, like brown bear, for instance, it does matter when you're
like
bisquing.
No grog and stuff like that.
Yeah, it does matter, but I've never had issues in that regard. However, I want to preface this whole conversation we're having with that. So obviously testing things is smart. So can the pots touch each other on the sides? Abso-fucking-lutely. Yes.
And they should be probably. Yeah, don't be scared of them touching each other.
Pack that bisque like you have no money to spare. Yeah, I even
make sure you're always making enough stuff that you can easily fill a kiln. Like you shouldn't be looking at your shelf of greenware and being like, can that fit in that kiln? It should easily be like, I got tons of shit to fit in this kiln.
Yeah, it is the number one cardinal sin to leave a bisque half empty. No, it's not. I mean, if you don't have enough stuff and you need to get it out, that's fine. But like today, I opened up the kiln and somebody else loaded it. And I was like, what the fuck? It's half empty. But there were some other things and there was some other like scenarios that were involved.
Yeah.
So it was fine. But definitely pack it like you mean it. So yes, the pots can touch the sides. A lot of potters will say, you do not want to touch your elements. So the bisqueware shouldn't be touching the elements. I've touched the side of the kiln, no problem. But ideally, if the elements like popping out,
usually
you
the
don't want to
elements
touch
are, usually the elements are inset by half an inch or
Yeah.
so in the.
But if they're popping out or whatever, you don't want to get near those. Yeah. What about you? You touch the sides, right?
They touch each other for sure. Yeah, I stack a number of ways. Definitely have them touching each other. This kind of goes on the next one, putting pots inside each other. I do that. Depends on what it is. I'll definitely stack a lot of things. Like I'll stack spoon rests. Depends on how high. I've stacked them as high as like 10 high. That's probably not
Yeah.
encouraged, but you
Well,
can
I
do
mean, your
that.
spoon rests are pretty hefty.
Yeah, you just mean like they could. I mean, the bottom one's not going to suffer necessarily. I have had some that have cracked, like had like vertical cracking on the sides, and
Yeah.
I think that's because they were probably on the bottom of a stack or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can stack flat things. I would not recommend stacking bowls inside each other unless they're like bottom on bottom. If they're like sidewall on sidewall, I would be wary. I generally don't do that. Like if they nest, but they're not like,
You don't want the rims to be touching.
yeah, you don't, unless you
Like if you're
flip
putting
them
them
upside down
inside.
and do like
Yeah.
rim to rim, like you could do that if they're
Yeah.
if they like match up, but don't put like a bowl with the bottom down and then put the next bowl inside of it that nests inside of it, because it will cause stress on it and it could add a crack on it. So
Yeah. Also, you want to make sure that you're at the same like dryness level. So if you're putting something that's a little wetter, it's going to shrink a little bit more because it's still taking out moisture. Oh, side note, I learned how to stack a bisque kiln from Simon Leach on his YouTube video. So look up that because he has a really good video of that. Now, as far as stacking bowls inside of each other, I would stack probably 5 high, but I put sand on the inside or a ring. I'll put like
what do you
a,
mean
I
5
made,
high? Are you, if you're nesting them and you have like a
yeah,
set of nesting bowls?
I'll nest them 5 high, but I don't nest them without anything inside of them. So like if I have a wide bowl or whatever, I'm going to put that bowl down on the shelf and then I'm going to put either sand in the bowl or I will put a ring that I've made a bisque, right? Just like a bisque 1-inch ring. And then in the inside of that bowl, and then I'll put another bowl on top of that so that none of the side walls are touching at all. And then, and the sand won't melt until glaze temp, so you can bisque with sand. And then, and also if you get the sand from Oregon in the sand dunes, it turns bright orange. That's a fun fact.
What kind
When
of
you
sand?
fire
Just
it.
like play sand?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
And then, um, so I'll do those 4 to 5 high, but if I don't have anything between them, I won't stack them at all like that. Like unless it's like a small bowl in a big bowl, you like know that they're not touching at all.
Yeah.
Also if something's super heavy, I won't put it on the inside of a bowl that might have a thin base or whatever like that.
Yeah.
Ideally you want to like line up the feet essentially so that your pressure is through the feet, so you want to kind of like have a line down through the bowls that's like, hey, we have our strong points on the feet. So yes.
Yeah, the other things I'll put in bowls, like obviously I won't put a mug in there because it's got the handle and usually it's like against the wall and that's stress. So
Yeah.
I will sometimes stack rim to rim and I'll put an oil bottle inside them
Yeah.
if it's the right height, and that works. Or I won't really stack like spoon rests, but I have stacked a few like spoon rests in there before. Or I'll put like shot glasses in there. Maybe I'll put like 3 in there, like kind of in a triangle, and then I'll stack another 3 on top of it, and then put them like bowl rim to rim, so that there's a set of like 6 spoon rests or shot glasses inside of a couple bowls.
Mm-hmm.
If it's like yarn bowls, I will bisque fire those upside down.
Yeah.
And maybe put like 3 shot glasses on the shelf, and then put the yarn bowl on top of it, so that like not that they're like sitting on top of the spoon rest, but that the spoon rests are sitting and the yarn bowls are just like covering it, and it's just like surrounding it. It's just optimizing your space.
Mm-hmm.
I have noticed I can also stack the shot glasses pretty high. Pots inside
Yeah.
each other. I've put like bottles inside of pitchers and stuff like that. The one thing that I would caution you, if you do have pieces, like the most blowouts that I've had have been with like oil bottles, and that's usually
Mm.
because they're thrown and they've got a lot of clay usually at the base, like at
They're
the base
dense.
and at the
Yeah.
bottom. So, they could be like half an inch thick down there at the bottom, or 3/4. Like it could be kind of thick. So
Yeah.
I either don't dry them long enough beforehand, which I would recommend, like, well, I do this. I'll sit pieces on top of a kiln that's already been firing and like dry them out if they're greenware, just to make sure that they're dry enough.
Or do
Um,
a hold. Like a preheat
yeah,
dry.
yeah. Um, but yeah, I've had blowouts with those. Like those can blow out on me if I happen to like put them inside of like pitchers, and it's like the pitcher's thick and then the bottle is thick. I think generally pieces that are directly on the shelf are less likely to blow up. I don't know. Maybe because the shelf like
Heats up.
heats up more evenly, and it also like accelerates the piece that's directly
Yeah.
on it to heat up.
So what's happening there is that you have a lot of clay that's like packed together and it's like right next to each other, and the water that's trying to escape when you do a bisque firing is like vibrating. It's like
Yeah.
vibrating a lot, and it like has nowhere to go because it's like trapped inside of that space. It's
The
like
clay body, that the pitcher that's surrounding it. So
right.
it instead of like going out and just dissipating into the rest of the kiln, it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, stuck.
Like
So
I loaded a bisque with super wet pots, uh, super wet pots, a couple days ago, in this new kiln, and I'm still trying to like kind of figure out how this kiln is working. I did a 3-hour hold, and you're eating milk duds. I'm so jealous.
yeah.
I'm like looking around here trying to see if she has any snacks down here. Anyway, fuck you. um, so sorry, short break, commercial break for Milk Duds. um, anyway, so I stacked these wine glasses that don't even have that thick of a base, but they do have a little bit thicker, just because I throw for Rebecca. So I've learned to have a thicker base, because we trim everything, and
Yeah.
I stacked them butt to butt, and they fucking blew out so bad.
Like
And
butt to butt, rim to rim,
yeah, it
and
was
you
just
only
butt to
stacked them
butt.
too high.
Too high, butt to butt.
Okay.
And the 3 in the middle just fucking exploded. And I was like, what the fuck? Like it just
Like in the middle of the shelf.
mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think that it just didn't have anywhere to go. I have full
Hmm.
shelves instead of half shelves. I did a 3-hour hold, but they were wet. So,
Yeah.
yeah, like keep that in mind, I've noticed that whenever something explodes, it's always on top of another piece. Like on top of another piece is like butt to butt,
Yeah.
Um,
I've had
so keep
bottles
that in mind.
that have blown up when they're sitting right on the shelf, but that's just because I rushed it. Like you see it's drying, like it could be drying for like 3 days, but like that's not truly enough when my bottles are thicker on the bottom, so
Mm-hmm.
they really need to dry longer than that.
Yeah. Also,
Um
I should note that I don't tumble stack. Do you tumble stack? Let's talk about that.
yeah, that's a good next point. I what would you consider tumble stack? Like I do stack things, but I'm not filling the entire kiln on top of one shelf. I'm not doing that.
A
But
lot
I
of people
will
do that.
I don't do that. I don't do that most likely because I don't have that many pieces that can like stack nicely that go
Yeah.
straight up.
Yeah,
I'm
like
not
if you
making
had
like 100
steins.
mugs and I can just go straight up the kiln with that. Like,
Right. If you had like steins that were cylinders that had like a wide foot, you could tumble stack those all the way up. I've done that once. And they would be fine because all the pressure is straight down. It's not like moving anywhere. But yeah,
mhm.
I've seen people tumble stack a whole fucking kiln, like a 10 cubic foot kiln with a bunch of shit. Like Alon Pottery does that all the time, Leanne does.
Yeah.
And I mean, she's got pretty gnarly shapes where she's like, they're pretty sturdy.
Yeah. I mean, if I
But
was like if Chris Birch was doing his 500 and every kiln firing, he was doing like 75 of that, like those might be a candidate for tumble stacking.
yeah. Yeah.
But
I'm always
it's
like
not really
so
tumble. I
nervous.
guess it's just like straight stacking. Yeah, I mean the tallest post that I've done and the least amount of shelves I've done is 2 shelves. So I have the base shelf and then maybe like a 12-inch post
Yeah.
and then another shelf. And I've stacked that, and that's usually like, mugs on mugs, and I do like 3 high of mugs on one
Yeah.
shelf maybe. And that's probably the tallest I've done, or like a big mug, medium mug, and like that's good. And then I might stack like the bowls, like rim to rim, butt to butt, whatever. I might do like rim to rim and then like butt to butt, or like rim to rim, and then I'll put like 4 spoon rests on top of that bowl that's got its
Mm-hmm.
butt upright. I'll do that a lot. So, or
I
I'll stack 2 mugs high, and then I'll put like 4 spoon rests on top of that. I do a lot of spoon rest stacking for sure to fill the space.
I'm a child. I'm a child, so I'm just gonna say this because I know somebody like Andrew Linderman or Isaac Shu is thinking this right now. We've mentioned blowouts, we've mentioned rim to rims, and we've mentioned butt to butt. So here we are. Anyway.
Okay. I'm talking about
Anyway,
pottery here. I don't know what you're talking about.
yeah, well, you know. Um I yeah, I would probably like I would never tumble stack my wine glasses, and the reason being is because the rims are so thin. They get
Mhm.
chipped pretty easily. And they're thin on purpose. But
How's
yeah,
the
you have to have a
diameter of your bottoms with the rims of those? Like,
they're about
could
the
you
same.
stack those just straight up?
You could, but I'm not ever going to. But yeah, I'm usually like a double stack, triple stack, maybe. Like I'll do what I always whenever I load a kiln, a bisque kiln, I always do rim down first on the first.
Really?
Yeah, always. Rim down first, and then I'll do butts on, butt to butt. So I do a double layer, and then I'll do a shelf, and then I do rim down, and then butt to butt up.
Yeah.
So I rarely ever do rim to rim anymore. I used to. If I'm doing bowls, that's fine, but
How do you
with
do the
cups and
pinch
stuff.
pots? Do you stack those inside each other and do like 4 high or 5 high?
I with the pinch pots, I won't go. I used to do like 10 high with pinch pots.
Yeah.
Um,
I can imagine those can
but
topple because the bases are probably not like super flat or
yeah,
super wide, so they could probably like just fall over.
yeah, and with pinch pots, I will stack probably 3 to 4 high now, and I stack them like big to smallest. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mise en place, you would do the same back in the day.
mise en place, there is no limit to mise en place. I will stack
I
those
mean, they're
fucking
so
20
thin,
high.
right? They're like,
They're like,
yeah.
I will stack the mise en place like 20 fucking high. I will stack them in a fucking like mound in the
Don't you
kiln.
just love unloading things like that? Like mise en place or like the garden stakes or the
Oh my
pinch
god, the
pots. Like it's
garden
so
stakes.
great when you just get to like pull out like 8 at a time and you're like, yes.
The garden stakes, when I fire garden stakes, it is 30 in a fucking pile. Like I will just fire them as a mound. And like I
Jeez.
fired probably 200 garden stakes on one shelf. Insane.
Oh
Um
my god.
don't recommend doing that glaze wise. I've also done that. That was a disaster. Um, I was like,
I
I remember texting Rebecca and being like, so I have to get these out and I'm putting them in the baby kiln. Do you think I should do separate shelves or should I just stack them all together? And she's like, stack them all together. And I think I misunderstood her. And I opened up the kiln. They were all fucking warped, and there was like it was like a pile. It was like a pile of probably 30 that were just fucking stuck together. Like I just like pulled out a clump of garden stakes
Just threw them right in the trash can.
and just dropped them, and that's how they broke apart.
Oh my
So
gosh.
bad. Oh, don't recommend.
Yeah.
Do not recommend. But yeah, so yeah, mise en place. Like, there's the small stuff. Oh, ornaments. Stack those 45 high. I don't fucking care. Um, there's the small stuff that
Like,
you
it's
just
the
stack up.
thinnest clay. Like, there's no. I mean, they take the least amount of time to dry. They're gonna dry everywhere. If they're dry on the top, then they're dry on the bottom because they're so thin.
I'm also a fan of. We'll get to the warping situation in a second, but I'm also a fan of side stacking or like setting them against the rim of the side wall of the kiln. So if
Like
I have
plates.
anything, yeah, plates or even ornaments or anything flat, I will set them against the rim, the the wall of the kiln. So I always set the rim to the wall, and so the butt's like towards the middle.
Right.
And you have to get the right level. You know, you can't like have them too angled. You have to make sure they're
I
straight
usually
up.
have it like 2 or 3 inches off the wall and then lean it against the wall.
Yeah, I'm probably like 2 inches, and then lean against the wall, and then I will. Um,
Like a 75
I
degree
love
angle or
I
something like
love
that.
like having to talk about this because we have to like put it into words. And then so with my plates, I do not stack them straight on. I kind of like zigzag them
Hmm.
off of each other so there's no one point that has too much pressure on it. So I'll
Oh,
probably
okay.
zigzag maybe 6 out into the middle, and then I'll zigzag all the way around. Um, so I could
Okay.
get, and I would do that on the bottom. So I'll do plates on the bottom row because they're the tallest. I don't know why that makes sense to me, but it does.
I think
And
it's better to load taller shelves at the bottom.
yeah.
Maybe.
So I do
I
the
don't know.
plates on the bottom, and I could probably get like 20 plates in the bottom of a kiln if it's a 10 cubic foot kiln. And that's 20 10-inch plates. So, yeah. And so for my clay, that doesn't warp the rims. Now, for like at work, we have brown bear and big turtle. I don't think big turtle would warp, but brown bear definitely does. You cannot stack those on, like, you can't lean them up against the side of the kiln, like the big bear, brown
Yeah.
bear, sorry, brown bear, because they will warp in the bisque, and then they warp in the glaze. And sometimes they warp in the bisque, and you don't know that until you glaze it. So that's why you kind of have to test it. So that goes back to, will they warp if I stack them, or the lip has something on top?
Is
So
that depending on how you make it too?
a little bit, yeah.
Like whether you're throwing it from a ball, flattening it out, or you're taking a slab of clay, throwing it on there, smoothing it out, and putting a rim on it. Like,
Like how I
are
do the
those the
plate.
plates you're doing? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that does have a little bit to do with it, but the rims are really thick and they're like pretty hardy. So,
Hmm.
sorry, I have a headache, so I'm not looking at you. So
So do you
yeah,
fire them flat but stack them like too high?
they
Is that
fire
what
them
you said?
flat, and I think that they fire them rim to the rim to the shelf, and then butt
To
to
butt.
butt. I
Okay.
think, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
They baby those plates like no other business because they're
Yeah, I
like
would suppose they
liquid
probably don't
gold.
want to put too many of them high.
Yeah. But yeah, so um warping, it's completely dependent on your clay, but as far as the lip goes, like if you put a bowl lip down on the kiln shelf and put something on top of it, no, it's not going to warp. I would say 100% it's not going to warp. Um
Mhm.
because that bowl, if especially if all of the surface area is touching the rim, then you should be fine.
Yeah. I haven't had any. I don't think I've had any warping. Like, I mean,
In the
it's
bisque, I
more gonna.
haven't.
Yeah, for me, it's mostly gonna happen at the glaze stage or the
Yeah.
glaze firing. Um, but I
I
mean, the
haven't, but I've
warping
seen it.
usually for me is gonna come into play because you did some manipulation when it was wet. and you put it back around or something, and it remembers that, and it's not gonna just stay all nice and tidy like because you corrected it. So
Right.
you mentioned the bottom shelf. Normally my bottom shelf is the mugs. I'll do usually mugs too high. I'll put my mugs in there, and then I'll put a couple shot glasses inside of them, all the way around all the mugs, and then I'll put another stack of mugs on top, and then I'll put shot glasses in those. So I mean, I could fit like 60 to 80 shot glasses on like the bottom shelf inside of mugs. Kind of sucks when you got to unload the kiln, but
yeah,
not too bad.
Yeah.
So.
And the last question on our bisque. This was a great question. The last question on our bisque situation is air circulation important? What I will say is this: no, but. No, however, what is important is to get all the moisture out of that kiln when you're preheating. And so like what I've been doing with this new kiln, even though we have a vent system that doesn't work very well, but I've been propping the lid open for the first couple hours just so that you can get all that fucking moisture out of there.
Is that mostly to help your kiln?
Yeah, it's to help the kiln. And also I think that also might have an issue with how those pieces kind of exploded.
Okay.
It's just like trapped in that moisture. Because like when you watch, when you open up your kiln an inch and leave it open until 1,000 degrees, between like 100 degrees and 300, 400 degrees, there's literally like fucking droplets of water coming out of the kiln. And it's like fucking steam. And it's like, I would lift up the lid to check, and there would be like a big drop of water that like fell in. Yeah, like there's a lot of moisture in those pots, especially if you haven't dried them completely. Like if you're in a climate like we are where the humidity's 50% and above all the time, you're going to have moisture in your pots regardless when you load it in the kiln.
Yeah. I'll definitely have to take this first couple firings slower because I'm not acclimated to my studio yet. So like there's not a lot of airflow in here.
Yeah.
Stuff's been sitting on shelves, but I don't really know how it's gonna go. So
yeah.
I will still have the vent and everything like I normally have, but yeah, maybe I'll put a longer hold on it at 185. Yeah. Does the air circulation tie in with the whole? This may relate to it, but it may just be how you load it. Does the center of the shelf? I feel like you were talking about this a little bit with what blew up, but the center of the shelf is going to take longer to heat up.
I think so. I mean, it
parts
depends
near
on
the elements.
Well,
that just makes sense,
yes.
right? For density and mass.
But it also depends on what kind of shells you're using. Like I'm using full shells because half shells are fucking bullshit. And and most of my shit is the same height, so it does not make sense to have half shells. I thought that I ordered one set of half shells, which is nice for the top, but I've never used half shells on the first 3 shelves, like of a kiln.
I do for glaze firing, but bisque firing I generally use full shelves, but I also just got more full shelves. Like I usually only had half shelves, so I just had to do what I had to do. But maybe that ties in with the air circulation though. Does it matter at all to stagger? I don't think it does.
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, it does help. It does help to stagger. So that's what I was thinking with the bisque. Like there's, when you have half shelves, you have air going through, or you have heat at least going through the middle core of where your shelves are kind of separated. And it kind of helps to stagger so that your heat can go in and out of those shelves. But like a ton of people fire with full shelves. It's just that I think you have to maybe take a slower approach because your heat is kind of moving in slower, and it's it takes a little bit more time to get to the middle.
I mean, I'm kind of thinking of it like if you were to look at it like on an infrared or something. If you were to look at a kiln and see like the cross section of it, you would probably see the shelves are like red hot because they're the most dense part of the kiln.
Mm-hmm.
So those are going to be the hottest. And if you stagger it, just imagine like having those really hot parts like throughout the kiln evenly instead of like one band here and then one band here and then one band here. And it's kind of like evenly dispersed vertically. But if you stagger it, it's kind of like the heat can be more even.
And it's not even about air circulation because remember, like most of us are firing in a electric kiln and it's oxidation. So there's no air circulation regardless. But
well, I mean there is if you're venting
if
it,
you're venting,
you're pulling air from the outside, inside, but there's not. It's really just about heat displacement and dispersing it in the right spots.
It's stable heat. It's not like you have a fucking flame like going through the different shelves. Like if you're firing a gas kiln, you obviously want your shelves to be staggered because you want that flame to go in and out and moving in and out. So
yeah. I definitely take that into consideration when I'm doing glaze firing a lot. Because my kiln generally does not fire the same temperature top to bottom. Like it's usually half a cone or something. So that's where I'm not putting a 4-inch shelf at the bottom, 4-inch post. I try to have a 6-inch or 8-inch post at the bottom.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you at all? You probably don't these days, but do you fire it all with a bisque kiln cone every now and then, or
I try to fire with one every time actually.
Every time, okay. You just put one in the kiln
like
somewhere.
Every other time. Yeah, I do it at the top. And mine got way hotter than 06 the last time I did it. So, but also remember that your elements at the bottom and the top are going to be hotter than your middle elements too. So keep that in mind.
Why?
Why? I have no fucking clue. But
is that a fact, or is that just based on your experience?
That's a fact.
Your
like,
kiln has fired hotter.
No, all Scott kilns for sure. All Olympic kilns for sure. I would imagine all cone art kilns, like as far as the ones that I've owned, your top element and your bottom element are going to be hotter than the ones in the middle. And I think that that's just because you're losing the most heat on the top and the bottom as opposed to the middle, and it kind of like pushes the heat towards the center.
Huh. I mean, I do historically feel like
when you do a test to see your elements. What?
I do feel like my top or bottom elements burn out before my others, generally.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's related to it.
Maybe it's related to you.
They're working harder. Always got to rag on me about the kilns. Kilns. You on your high horse, all new kiln shit.
Even when I didn't have a new kiln, Ryan. Even when I didn't.
Fuck your kiln, Becca.
Oh.
All right. We'll answer another question. Ask us another question down the road about glaze firing, loading, and stuff. We'll talk about that.
Yeah, that was great.
I feel like I always show stories about my loading of my kilns and stuff, so at least I show the top shelf. I don't know about the bottoms and stuff, but yeah, there's definitely a science to it. Like, it's not an easy like, hey, you always need to load it this way. It has to do a lot with what pieces are going on what shelves and how dense you're packing it and stuff like that. So
yeah, and then the people that the people that make totally different stuff, it's so much harder to load a kiln when your pieces are completely different. Like for you and me, we make very similar pieces, so like a lot of the same type of pieces. So like we can load one whole bottom shelf with mugs or with wine glasses or whatever, and they're the same height, and so it's pretty similar, and so you don't have to worry about it. But like when you're especially if you're in like a class setting or whatever, you have so many different types of pieces. And so it's so much harder to load that kiln because it's just such a variety, heights and widths and all the things.
Yeah.
And fucking bowls, like, because students always make bowls. So. Yeah.
I do have a link to a bisque schedule that Josh Heim from JH Body Works
one I used to.
sent me. look at my highlights. It's in there. I want to say it's called Bisque Program or Bisque Schedule.
Mm-hmm.
And get a screenshot of it and save that. It's pretty good. So
yeah.
I also feel like I have a kiln log that I wanted to put on my blog. I'm at like 1 blog post a year, so that might be my blog post for the year. I need to log the PDF version of those files so people can, or the doc version and PDF so people can edit them and adjust them to their needs. But back in the day, I had a document for just logging my manual kilns with a high, medium, low, and like keeping notes and all that stuff, and putting in a binder and stuff. So maybe that'll kick me into gear to save that, and maybe it'll be out by the time this episode's out. So
Maybe. I have
do
never.
you log your bisque firings or anything? No.
I don't log anything. I've never had a kiln log.
Oh my god. That sounds terrible.
Why? Like, what's the fucking point, I guess, for me? I don't know.
What I mean, one of the main points is so you know how long your kiln's taking to fire. If it's dramatically taking longer and you don't actually like make note of how long it's taking, and you don't realize that like 12 hours is too long when it normally takes 9.
But I make a mental note. I look at it every single time I turn off the kiln. I say,
not
oh,
everybody
yeah, 9
has
hours.
mental notes and remembers that shit.
Well, that's why I don't have a fucking kiln log. Because I have a memory like that.
Do you normally have it's more of a glaze kiln issue to make sure that you're I do it mostly to make sure I know what my cones are doing on every top, middle, bottom of the shelf, so I know if like some issues are coming up in certain parts of the kiln.
Yeah. To be honest, I've had newish kilns for the most part, and
set it and forget it. Yeah.
Not set it and forget it. I mean, still put cones in there, but like, and also
do you save the cones?
No.
Or do you make a mental note of the cones, or like, okay, we're so good?
Yeah, obviously I make a mental note of every firing, but also I've been firing for such a long time, and when you have glazes that are consistent for such a long time, when you pull something out, you're like, oh, that was too low. Like it just clicks, you know? It's like,
but how do you know what to adjust? Do you also know a mental note of what you set your kiln at? Cone 5, hold 10 minutes, and you know that that's what you always do. So you're like, okay, now I need to load them again, and I need to do cone 5, hold 15, or put them in a different part of the kiln and refire. Like, how do you know to do that?
When
you
it
just
starts
mentally do all that
up, then you change the fucking elements.
You're telling me when something changes, you just change an element, you don't make a note of it and fire longer or anything? There's no. That's what the log is telling me. The log is not gonna. I'm not gonna mentally note all that shit and just say I know what's going on, because mentally, 2 months ago it was firing at this, and I fired the same schedule. I think the density of the kiln can change what the cones are doing too. But I guess if you're firing the same thing all the time and you load it the same way, then I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the difference. It's just that, like, when you load a kiln every single day for a month, or like, you know, you load it every other day for a month or a year, you know, and you pull something out, you're like, oh, that's different. Okay. And then you just like, in your brain, you're like, okay, cool. And then either you move that glaze into a different part of the kiln, or because like some glazes work better at a lower temp, some glazes work better at a higher temp, but my kilns mostly are pretty even throughout. And if they become uneven, it's usually because of a consistency of firing. So it's usually because we're on like firing number 100, and those elements need to be.
How do you know it's firing number 100?
Because the kiln tells you.
That's true. Does it segment it out based on glaze firing or bisque firing or?
No, but it's still.
But you're making note of something. You're making note of it somewhere. How do you know the kiln like logged the last time you looked at it, or That's what I'm saying. Like I log that when I change an element, when I change a relay. Like I can log that stuff in my kiln log, So that
Okay,
like this is a point in time when I
one,
put new elements in. This is the point
when
in time where I changed the relay. This is the point in time I put new thermocouples in. Like
you, first of all, you only do one element at a time. I do all of them.
I have not done that since we talked on probably episode 37 about kiln venting.
Okay, I always change all my elements all at the same time. And also, again, fucking brand new fucking kilns. And it takes a long fucking time for those elements to burn out. Okay, that's the first. The second, relays. Just get some fucking tape, write it on the side of the relay that you changed it out on this date. Okay.
Why are you keeping an old relay? Throw that fucking thing away.
No, when you put the new one in, you say, put this in on this date. On tape.
Right. You're gonna remember to look at that. I'm saying there's a way that you could document it. Document your way. I don't care. It's just it's all scattered. Why not have it all in one place? It's in one log.
It
Even if it's
works.
just one paper. Even if it's just one page that says kiln maintenance and you write a date on there and you say changed elements and you say change thermocouples. Like, I don't know.
I just change the fucking thermocouple when it needs to be fucking changed.
I get it, but how do you know when you changed it last? You're like, I probably changed it about a year and a half ago.
But
I
it
don't know.
doesn't fucking matter. It doesn't fucking matter. When the thermocouple shit, you change it.
I know, but what I'm saying is, like, there could be times, like, you don't know how old your thermocouple is because that's not logged. Like, the kiln firings are logged, right? Your kiln, if you know the last time that you checked it when you changed the elements, okay, I changed them at firing number 350. Like,
You
you
don't
know the
remember when
elements
you
are that
changed your
old.
thermocouple?
I mean, I log it in my book so I know the date that I changed it, but I don't know the firing number. If you're not logging a firing number, you're not logging a date or anything. How do you know how old it is?
Why does it matter?
Because that's a factor, right? Like if the thermocouple's airing, you don't know if it's airing because of an element issue, a thermocouple issue, I mean, there's a thing that you got to go through of like, okay, what does it look like? How does it look? I don't know. I'm just on the side of logging things because it gives me peace of mind, so I can look back and know how long I've been firing this thing and the elements have been going in their life and how long the thermocouples lasted. I don't know. And it's also good to like for me to know how many firings I'm firing in a year. Like I don't know. How
I
often am I
used
firing my
to
kiln?
when I
But
had
you're doing it like every other day, so
when I had the kiln sitters, I used to save those cones. Um so that I would save them in a cup. And every year, at the end of the year, I would count out how many bisque and how many glaze I did.
so you had some kind of logging.
Yeah, a cup.
Yeah. I still I had to like draw the cones in my book. So I like draw that cone 5 is doing this, cone 6 is doing this, cone 7, yeah.
I don't know, maybe someday I'll do it, but I guess that's the thing. It's just like maybe it's because okay, this is something.
Is it because I came from the background of like my kilns have always been like old and like heavy maintenance that I do all this stuff, so I keep track of it?
No, I think it's because you're like
Like
smart,
my
but like
brain and like
I
keep
think that
track of
my
stuff.
brain just works differently than most people. Like I can remember all that shit, and I don't know why, but I can. Even when I had old shitty kilns, I never took a kiln log, and I just fixed what needed to be fixed. I have a very mechanical brain, and so I'd figure out what was wrong and I'd change it. Um, I think that that's the difference. Also, I've realized this week, I was going to tell you this and I almost forgot. I realized this week that like the advice that I give is based on obviously it's based on my experience, obviously. But what I've realized is that my experience is so unbelievably different than everyone else's. And the reason that is because like, it's like when I say, oh, you should use these bats. When I use a bat, I clean it off every single time. Like when I'm throwing, I clean it. And then I'm like realizing as other people have been using my bats at work and stuff like that, that nobody fucking cleans their bats. Like nobody, like people are really hard on their shit. Like when I suggest a certain sponge, I am very careful, I guess, with all of my tools and all of my things, and I keep things clean and I keep things like neat and orderly. And I realize that like when I'm offering this advice, it's from my perspective of me like being good to my everything, like good to my kiln, good to my tools. Like, I don't use kiln wash because I don't fucking need kiln wash. And I don't sand my shit because I don't fucking need to sand my shit. Like,
But you do sand it before you hand it to them, so you can't say you don't sand it.
not all the time. If I do it right, like the shitty cups I was sanding because those were real shitty. But like the ones that I've been doing now, I won't be sanding those because they're
But
fine.
some of the sanding is not because it needs it. It's because it's an extra just nice thing. It's like a nice to have. It's not a
I know, but
necessity,
you're
but it is a
missing the
nice to
point.
have.
You're missing the point. Like I take care of my things and I have a system to all of my stuff, and when I give out advice like this, I'm doing that with that perspective in mind. And then I realize that like some people don't do that. Like people are messy, and like people are forgetful and people are like they don't think that the same way I think. Like I'm a very mechanical human being. Like I when I look at a kiln and when it sounds weird, I figure out what's wrong and I figure it out
There's
quickly.
things that are more intuitive that it's like,
Yeah,
how do you not know that? Or
right.
how
And
can you not figure that out or something?
right. And so I think that that's also something when I say stuff. So
Maybe that's why I'm got more patience for people. Because it's like, I mean, honestly, I don't expect people to overthink things like I do of like the amount of detail and
yeah.
like specifics. So it's like, I try to explain myself so that it's easy for
Yeah.
somebody to comprehend and understand and over explain things. Because I don't want to expect everything to be intuitive. And
Because you have empathy
I
and
want it to
I
meet a
don't.
range of I want it to meet a range of different skill sets where like okay they can like get the gist of what I'm saying and they understand it because they've gone through it, but if it's somebody that's new I need to explain it enough to where they understand.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, that was more than an hour 20.
Yeah. I'm
All right.
texting Rebecca to see if she has any snacks down here. Okay. Cool.
All right.
That was fun. We haven't had a bickering session for a while. That was fun.
I don't know, that was like episode 37 part 2.
And I was on the butt end of that, so that was good.
You're on the button. You are.
I was on the what the
I just
fuck,
don't think
Becca?
it's good advice to just tell people don't keep track of anything. Like for
I
people that are
never
starting out, that's
said
not good advice.
I never said it was good advice to not keep track of anything. It's just the first time that I've delved that information that I don't keep a kiln log. Because I'm smart enough not to say that shit because of this
I
shit.
thought you were about to say I'm smart enough not to need it. I was like, oh,
No, I'm
okay.
just smart enough to keep that shit to myself. Apparently until now.
Don't be like Becca.
Don't be like that. Okay.
All right. Thanks for
Bye.
listening. Bye.
Bye. I'm so hungry. I gotta like hold
All
on.
right. I'm going to stop that recording so it'll save it.